Shalom, it's the 26th of June, still Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Just want to let my mind go a bit and just reshuffle the information in my head and just share my thoughts with you guys. Not James, it's actually Hebrews, sorry. So Hebrews is the theme of the book that is aimed at people who identify with being Hebrew. Or that's the target audience from the author's perspective. He wanted to write to people who identify themselves as Hebrew. Now, if you think about that, back in the day when this book was written, was there a movement where people identified themselves with being Hebrew? And was that movement influenced by the religious crowd, like the Pharisees and Sadducees, and their doctrines and traditions? I believe that was the case, because otherwise, why will he aim the book at an audience called the Hebrews? He could have called it the Jews or people of the way. I know there's a few ancient terminology and terms for people who broke off from Judaism and started to follow Mashiach. But specifically, I think Hebrews is the theme of that movement, or the identity of that movement. And this is a letter for them. So if you today identify yourself being a Hebrew, then this book is for you. So what does it mean to be a Hebrew? Now, last time we just dabbled into the Hebrew word Ivri. That means from regions beyond. And the first person identified as a Hebrew was Abraham. And the context was Lot was taken captured, and they came down to Abraham the Hebrew for help, and that's where he overpowered the I don't know which kings or people captured Lot, but he overcame them and rescued Lot. So just in that backdrop of the storyline, people who identify of being Hebrew, their mission is to help people to escape the system, escape the people who enslave them, who capture them, who try to keep them under the authority of that system, which is those people who captured Lot, and the symbolism of that. And it's important for us to understand, those who identify as being Hebrew, that is part of your purpose, is to help other people to come out of that system, to remove yourself from that system, and to know what that system is about. So some people don't like studying the enemy because they spend too much time studying the enemy, understanding the enemy, and they label it normally as conspiracy theorists. But there's underlying things that exist today that you can't really put your finger on, but if you connect the dots, yes, then you can see there's a pattern, there's something happening. And people got this feeling that something's happening, someone is in control, there's an agenda being rolled out. Well, that is the enemy. It's covert wars, as we discussed previously. Now, covert war is an undercover war. It's a war you can't really see. It's like a Cold War, just a standoff, and something happened. Sometimes in plain sight, but it's hidden in plain sight. So it's so obvious that you don't really recognize it as the implementation of another weapon of the enemy. And we need to be aware of that, or mostly I think people who identify being Hebrew are aware of that, and that's why they moved out, just like Lot. He didn't live at the gates of Sodom and Gomorrah, he lived in a mountainous area, and in Memre, and basically it has to do with reversing the bitterness. That's the root word for Memre. It's to do with Mara, bitterness, and bitterness of the Aleph, bitterness of the Father because of the sins of his sons, Adam, or humanity. So we are called to reverse the effect of the bondage and the enslavement of Yahweh's people that caused him to become bitter and grieved. Because people, it's one thing if they capture you and they force you, but it's even worse if you if you just comply out of choice. You just walk into it because you accept it. It looks like a good idea. And then you walk into the jail cell, they lock you up, and you are happy in there because you think it's a good idea of being locked up. That's a very extreme visual little picture there, but that's the reality that's out there today. People walk into these cells and it's covered with little lights and nice things, and when you sit in your little area there, they just keep you busy. And busy means being under Satan's yoke. And if you're under his yoke, you are performing his work, or you are doing work for his benefit. Just being passive in the kingdom of Yahweh is doing work for the enemy. Doing some things against the kingdom of Yahweh is definitely applying your energy for the benefit of the kingdom of darkness that is against the kingdom of light. Even though you identify with the kingdom of light, you can be in bondage, you can be blinded, and actively being busy doing the things of the darkness, of the dark side. So we need to help those people to see the light, and that's the concept of Abraham, the concept of people who identify with being Hebrew. Now, Hebrew, meaning regions beyond, means that we connect to a region beyond where Yahweh is, where the kingdom of Yahweh is, and we bring that kingdom into this world through our presence, carrying his kingdom inside of us. So we need to be mindful of that. So that's just a few thoughts I wanted to share this morning. So I hope you have a wonderful day and have a lovely Sabbath. I'll speak to you soon. Shalom.